Hello, it's another session of the Scrum Chatroom, and we're back again to talk about Agile. We're back again to talk about Scrum. We're back again to answer your question. It's always an exciting journey with some really powerful guests. And if you this is your first time joining, every Thursday we're live at 6 p.m. Central Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. If you're in the Mountain Time Zone, that's going to be 5 p.m. I guess. And for our friends watching us in the UK, I think it's about midnight now, right? But everywhere you are, please drop a comment. Let us know where you are watching us from. And in today's session, we are going to get into some deep diving conversation about the Scrum event. If you did not watch the last week's session, we did quite a lot on spring planning, detailing what spring planning is, what spring planning is not, what you should pay attention to, what you should pay attention, what you should not pay attention to, how is it different from theory and in practice. And today we are going to dive deep into what really happens at the daily stand up in practice, and then we'll kind of zoom more into backlog refinement, which is one of the I'll say controversial event. Like some people say, oh, it's an event, it's not an event. We're gonna find out more in this session. And we're also gonna talk a bit about spring review meetings and then retrospective meeting. And above all, you're the most important person. We're also gonna take your questions. So please let us know where you are watching us from. And today we have two powerful guests to share with us. We have our favorite Coach Catherine joining us all the way from Illinois. Hello, Catherine. Welcome to the Scrum Chat Room.
Hi, Doug. Good evening, everyone. And it's such a great pleasure to be here again to just share knowledge and to take your questions. And hopefully, some people will get blessed and get the job offers after hearing a lot from us.
Oh
You
wow,
know,
I like that word, and I think when a lot of people need that job this week. So if you need a job, I just want you to kind of pay very close attention to Coach Kathy because she's coming with that grace to give people a job today. So you want to
amen.
take down your pen and your note, and on the way from the DMV area, we also have Coach Al in the room. Hello, Coach Al, and welcome to the Scrum Chat Room.
Hey Doug, thanks for having thanks for having me back again. I'm really excited to be here. Hello everybody. Welcome. We're glad you're joining us again today to learn, as much as you can, and we're willing to share knowledge as well.
All right, thank you. Without wasting much time, we want to get deep into the conversation. Make sure that we are engaging with almost everybody. Hello, I see Coach Samuel, I see Sela, I see Adora, and everyone joining us. Please drop a quick comment so that we know that you're there watching and we can engage with you. Now, the first question I think the first question we need, I want to go with to engage with the conversation today. We want to start talk about daily stand up, and we want to look at what are some of the practices that happen and how does this event happen differently within different environment. But before we go into the practice of what daily stand up is, let's look at the theoretical aspect of what daily stand up is. Now I'm going to start with Coach Catherine. Coach Catherine, if you were in an interview and they asked you to define what a daily stand up is, how you gonna approach that, right?
Thank you for that question, Doug. So I think it's always best to approach answers based on from practicality rather than theory. So, oh, thank you for that question. So, daily stand up is an event where my teams and I we come together to get updates as regard to the project you're working on, and we also make sure, most importantly, we want to capture any impediments, any blockers, and then we always make sure I capture those while they're giving their updates. I capture all the impediments or open questions that they have, and then I make sure after the daily stand up, I'll follow up on that. So why they give their updates and make sure I'm capturing everything, especially the blockers and questions.
Right. Now that's quite different. I was expecting you to say, oh, with the daily stand up, I'm gonna ask them what they did yesterday, what they're doing
Oh my
today,
god.
if you have any impediments or not, but you kind of really target it from a different perspective, which is kind of more practical. And that's more of what we want to have in today's session, guys, and kind of just dive deep for to get more clarity from moving from the theoretical aspect to talking about it in the more practical aspect. And Coach, definitely, I know you also have uh, a great contribution in that on that point.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I look at the daily stand up as some say status report. It's just basically team come together, check, hey, how close are we towards our sprint goal? That's it. Hey team, morning everyone. How close are we towards our sprint goal? Is there anything stopping us from achieving our sprint goal? And then we have that open conversation, right? You pull the board up. My scrum master just walk through the board, and yeah, it's not. Um, it shouldn't be. I think I'll just say it shouldn't be something difficult. I know the standard, like you saying, Doc. What did you do yesterday? What you do today? That's too mundane. It's old
It's
school, right?
boring. Yeah, and
And
it's
then
so
you go in
boring.
an interview session, simple. What's your understanding of daily stand up or whatever the question may be behind around it. Say in my environment, our daily stand up is basically we track the progress towards our sprint goal. That's it. It's simple as it. That's the main purpose of the daily stand up.
Okay. Now, the main purpose of the daily stand up is to track our progress towards the spring goal. And now, one of thing I want to emphasize, especially to those who are watching us, and especially to those who are in the process of kind of getting into Scrum, the reason why we kind of engage this conversation online here is definitely not just for fun. It's to help you kind of start articulating on why you will go for an interview and they're like, oh, sorry, we went with someone else. Just imagine you were competing with Coach Al or Coach Catherine, and then they gave these two responses. But then it's not just about it. That's the key point that happened. We are kind of looking at the progress. That's the generic stuff that happened during the daily stand up. But then it comes after the spring planning. One of the things which we want to talk about is what have you seen that makes a daily stand up effective based on interacting with your environment? What have you seen that your team members really like it? What make it really fun, or what make them want to show up in every daily stand up? Coach Catherine.
All right. Thank you for that question, Doc. So for me, I would say I always start with some icebreakers. Sometimes just do like awareness check, just ask how each person is doing. And sometimes maybe during the daily stand up, they might give updates like, oh, my daughter was sick, my dog was sick, or something like that. I always make sure follow up on that and ask how the person is doing. If it's your dog, how the dog is doing. And then I also have a checklist. I have a stand up checklist just to keep me organized. So on my checklist, first off, I make sure I go over the board before the stand up, like 5 minutes before my stand up. I make sure I go over the board, look at what the progress of the work, like what columns, because at the end of each day I know where stories are. So make sure maybe if a story was in development, maybe it's now in the ready for testing column. So that's my first step. So when I do that, okay, and then now I'm ready to, and then I log in, just wait for people to come in, and I also make sure I'm the first person to be on the daily stand up call. So when they come in, I just start greeting them and just start those conversations so that those who to just to give gap and time so for everyone to also join the call. So start those conversations, and then next when they start giving the updates, what I make sure is I always tell everyone, okay, welcome to the stand up. Thank you, team. Please let's capture our updates first. If you have any questions, write it down. We'll take that after the updates. So when they give their updates, everyone is finished. Okay, any other updates? Anything else? Nothing. Okay, let's move to questions. Gajami had a question. Coach Alfred had a question. They give their questions. I'll make sure I capture that. And then I also ask, okay, who's able to get this resolved? They point me to, okay, this person from this other team, and then I make sure after the daily stand up, I follow up on that. Sometimes even while in the daily stand up, if somebody else is sharing their screen to maybe show the problem, show what's not working, I make sure I'm pinning that person right away. I'm sending that email right away, or I'm writing that on my to-do list so I don't forget. So and then when we capture everything, and then yeah, that's it. But I feel like the checklist keeps me more organized,
Mhm.
and just starting those icebreakers also just help to because it's morning for some people, it's very early
Yeah.
because I have people in the Pacific time zone, so it's very early for them. So just giving those icebreakers. Oh, did you have your coffee to keep you awake? They laugh and they feel relaxed and they're ready to give the update. So I feel like those icebreakers are very important. Again, stand up is just for 15 minutes, but ours is 30 minutes because we have stand up slash parking lot. So I always make sure we do utilize that time to do a little icebreaker, even if it's for 3 minutes or 4 minutes. And then we pick up after that with our updates and questions.
Wow. Thank you very much, Coach Catherine. I think a couple of stuff you highlighted there. Number one, always go in with a checklist, know what you want to do. Number two, having clarity on your agenda.
Yes.
Like, okay, team, let's take our update. Let's keep questions so that we kind of are organized. And with that, because the environment is organized, we have an effective output. And then you also spoke about having a checklist and to do and to follow up list is very important. And sometimes some of them require that you do that instantly. It's going to really help you be on top of your game. I do agree with that as well. And now let's talk about Coach R, the angle where I wanted to come in from is let's come in from what are some of the habits that you've seen that make daily stand up ineffective?
I think you going into it not prepared as a Scrum Master. One of the, I mean, for me, working with my Scrum Master, first thing I usually do every morning, I'll check my calendar, right? See what I have meetings and go to the board, see what the progress the team has made the previous day. But going into a daily stand up not prepared, right? Coming in, like Kat was saying, coming in late. I mean, you may have there's certain times where my Scrum Master has issues with connecting to the meeting, which is understandable. So it's like, okay, try to log in at least 10 minutes early, just in case, or 5 minutes early. So I think going in prepared, not looking at your board. One thing the way we run it, no more than 5 minutes. Our daily stand up don't last longer than 5 minutes, right? But get enough track. We can have our small chit chat. Don't let it go. The moment you have everyone present, or your development team present,
Yeah,
your daily stand up should start right there. You don't have to wait for, because in our case we have stakeholders that attend. So with regard impediments or Q&A, we are what we call office hours. So right on the spot, you come in, hey Mo, hey this, hey that, what's your status? We get it, and we're out. So no delay, on time. The moment you have everybody on, start your DSU.
yeah,
Any questions or anything, save it for after parking lot, whatever you call it in your own environment. Because we call it office hours. That's where we go. They ask their question. We talk about whatever issue. It's like a 1 hour session right after the DSU, right? But it's like just be mindful in the timing as well. You don't want to spend more time just talking about one thing, right? Be mindful of the time and take I usually say this, my scrum master, her tone commands the meeting.
yeah,
Yeah.
He talks and it's like, I don't care who you are, stakeholder or not, everybody just shut it.
Yeah.
Take control.
You have to
When
be
you
in
take
command.
control.
control, the moment they know it's like, okay, this is the moment. Hey, what's your status? What's your status? What's your status? All right, any question? She asked me, I have any question? No, thank you guys very much. If you have any additional question, office hours. That's it. Take control of the situation and don't let the conversation go for too long.
Yeah. And sorry if I can add,
Yeah,
um,
go ahead.
so
Sorry.
what I usually do is so like I sometimes I go with I don't want like the same people to go first all the time. So what I do is
Yeah,
sometimes switch it up. Sometimes you go the way we are on the board. Sometimes I just call random people like, okay, Jam, can you give your updates? Okay, when you finish, pass the baton, pass it to somebody else. So it just helps different people to go first, not the same person going first all the time.
at
And
the
then what
time.
I also do sometimes is not oh sorry, not sometimes, all the time. Why they are giving the updates. If there's a question, most times I go on the comment section, type the question in, tag 2 or 3 stakeholders, and then most times they come in and answer that for us. And then when they answer, they also tag us on there to know that, oh, okay, we answer your question, so we can pick it up from there and continue our work rather than sending them emails. I'll take time. Sometimes the email even get lost in their piles of emails. So that's what I also do, and that's been so helpful since I started doing that for us
Yeah,
these
that's key
days.
because we have every day, whatever it is, go to the comment, put your comment there.
Hmm.
That makes me coming in, like go through the comment. I know what goes on. I don't have to stand there, start asking questions, right?
Yeah.
Always encourage them to give a status update by end of business day, put their comment so they come back some, and that also helps you shorten the meeting time as well,
That's
because
right.
if you go you see the updates there, you know exactly coming in the next day what to talk about, and you don't waste any more time, and then you just move on. And they like it too. It's like, all right guys, sometimes we do less than 5 minutes, but yeah, we haven't I don't recall the time we have 5 minute DSU.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Sometimes.
That kind of take us to roasting questions like, how do you treat daily stand-up with status update? Now, the reason, and Coach Alfred just touched on that, status update just mean go and update the status of your story. So if it's a status update, there's no need for
There's
anyone
no
to
need.
come there. So
Hmm.
it's an alignment meeting where we come instead of just saying that, oh, this is where I am or this is where I am not. You heard from Coach Catherine perspective in helping them more or less sharing where they are there any blockers. It's more of trying to find out what is stopping us from making progress, right? That's a major stop. What's stopping us from making progress? Who do we need to connect with? That's why she said, oh, if I need to pin someone, if I need to send an email, that's the reason. If it's all about status update, we don't need to come together. I can just go on the board, update the status of my story, and that's it. And obviously, yes, Rosin, to your second question, yes, the reason why it extends is because of parking lot. Yeah, all the major conversation happens within that first 15 minutes. Um, I think what's that? No, that I have the wrong question. All the major conversation happen within the first 15 minutes. After that, the parking lot is for those who have follow up. If there's no follow up, 5 minutes, 7 minutes, you're done. And
Yes.
giving your team back is one of the first thing you can, best thing you can ever do to them, right? Now, but there's a couple of scenarios where a daily stand up can be more than 15 minutes. For instance, I have a friend and he run a Scrum team, right? The abnormal Scrum team, which is why we also want to bring the practicals there. There are 18 people in his team. So you cannot run a 15-minute stand up with 18 people. Right now, you act like, oh, that's anti-pattern. Yes, it's anti-pattern, but it's reality. Now, why is that reality? The company is trying to cut down budget and they're merging teams, right? So that's why most often when you go for an interview, they're trying to see if you're a scrum master from the book or you're a scrum master that can understand situation and adapt, right? So the company is trying to cut down, so they mesh two teams into one. And they still a scrum team, they're 18 people. So you cannot have a daily stand up for just 15 minutes for 18 people. Right. And I was talking with him yesterday. It's like, so now he has to run three teams. The team with 18, one of the team with 18 people, another one with 14, another one with 13. Those are really big teams. So because of that, they don't expect him to do retrospective weekly. So he has now a monthly retrospective because of the so many meetings he has to be in. So those are some of the cases where you can adapt. And most often you will go to a company, they might present you that scenario like, oh no, this is a retrospect, this is an anti-pattern, you cannot do that. I was like, okay, we don't want you. The major goal of Agile is not to follow it by the book, right? It's about what works for the company and what's giving them the result that they need. So this is very important. All right. So, and just to clarify your question, does your team agree on a 15-minute extra? It's not about the team. When you set meetings, don't set meetings back to back. Always leave extra time in case there are extra stuff to discuss. So, this is like just extra time, and definitely the time is 15 minutes. But then when you set meetings like that, that may have follow up, you can actually leave time and everyone that stay back kind of just discuss on that.
I see another question from Rosalind. I think it's um
Is that a question for uh,
okay,
the best
yes.
practice and consistency and offer? It's kind of a common as okay, supposed to use, but during this, especially okay, yeah, it's more like
Yes.
a comment to that.
Mhm.
All right. Uh,
Yeah, and just my final thoughts on on stand up. To me, I feel like stand up is also like it just makes you to understand that the team is like they trust each other, because if you don't trust people, you'll not be there to show them what you've done or to openly talk about what you're doing or what you're working on. So I feel like it also shows that the team trusts each other, and that's a high level of transparency, just for them to come together to
that's right.
when everybody's showcasing what they are working on and openly talk about it.
Yeah, and think there's a follow-up question where coach has said there's supposed to be some stakeholders come to the SU.
Yeah.
How good is that? That's why we're talking about environment here.
Environment.
It's not an anti-pattern. There are some certain project, the nature of the project warrants that you have to have SMEs and stakeholders on board to give you the clarity, the speed at which you need to move. Now, sometimes you might be working on a project, and because most often with infrastructure project or most often with integration and enhancement project, which are like business as usual within the company, and we need to get this out by June. If not, the company is losing out on business. Now they will leverage a hybrid model to implement that. They need to fast track that project. So in that case, you might be having like roadmap conversation still going on. They want the team to start implementing. So in that way, they might need a key stakeholders to be present at the DSU so that if there are any update that are discussed maybe in a meeting 1 hour before that stuff, before the daily stand up, the stakeholder is there to give the team an update. So all of these hybrid models happen in practice. All
Yeah,
right.
just to add quick, I think we should not be looking at it. It's not a negative thing. It's a positive. They come in, they are aware of the meeting, the essence of the meeting, right? And prior to my prior environment was the same thing. They come in, what it does, it also makes this collaboration much easier because now we know the key point of contact. So we're building a financial application or web based. So things with payroll. So if there's any question, the team may need clarity or something, the person is sitting right in front of you. It's like right there. We go to the office hours and it asks them all the question. They bring in that clarity.
Yeah,
So the separation, the theory is for understanding.
that's right.
A guide, it's just a guide. It's not saying you implement it in the theory into practice. Practice is much different, but the theory acts as a guide when you're doing the practical. It doesn't mean because it says it's only for team, it's only for team. No. Stakeholders can participate. They just go, they sit down and listen. They are aware what you have to do. What we do is like, okay, they are aware of the timing. Say this, it's a 15-minute. You have any additional question or whatnot, we take it after. So they don't come and take over. You lay the groundwork so they understand. For most part, they come in, they know exactly what to do. They don't interfere. They just listen. They have a question. They don't. Thank you guys very much. Great work. You guys are doing exceptional job. That's it. It's pretty much done.
Okay. And Jones asked a question. Most jobs are going on site, and how soon to start facilitating daily at DSU. Now, although most job will ask you to go on site on the first day, normally for normal companies, there are abnormal companies, right? The abnormal companies you get in the first day, you start facilitating. But
Mhm.
normally, a company should take about at least 2 to a month to onboard you, to get you aligned with the processes, have someone show you around. A company that want to protect what they have, because each company is different. The fact that I know how to run spring planning meetings, or doesn't mean that if I get in a different environment, I'll just pick up from there. I need to be able to understand their repository, where they store their documentation. I need to be able to understand who is who. I need to be able to understand the product. If not, I will not be able to do an effective job, right? So
True.
even when you go on site, you not, most often you don't start on day one, but that should not even be your concern. I think the major problem many of us are having is because we don't have this opportunity to learn what to do before we get there, right? Just imagine, I'll say, okay, you've been practicing as a nurse and then you get a job in a different company and they want you to come in day one. It's not your problem. Now I will not have a problem if any company wants me to come, if I want to go on site, right? And any company want me to come day one. That's not a problem, right? And it's just about asking the right question. So, Jones, I think the reason we all face this question is because we don't have a room to practice, right? And that's one of the reasons why we're here, to help people gain that practice, to help people gain that alignment. Um, Most of, I think for last week we always do the at the end for people that want to learn how to practice. We'll give you an opportunity to have like a 30-minute evaluation session, and then we can see if you qualify to join our community of practice or not. So, but that we'll do that at the end of the day. All
If
right.
if
Yeah,
I can add quick to that, I think it's much easier. Everyone may think it sounds crazy, but it's much easier when you go in person than when you do it virtually.
I do agree.
It's
Mm-hmm.
much easier because you're there communicating with people,
Yes.
right? And it
Mhm.
makes life easy for you because you're there in person. When you're virtual, from that's where the difficulty, because now you basically, how do you connect with these individuals, right?
True.
How do you stay active, know what's going on, what to do, how to do. But when you're there, everybody meet, bum bum bum, you get out. But virtually, it makes sense, you're comfortable, but it's much more difficult because that's where they're gonna try how effective are you as a scrum master.
As Scrum Master.
When you're in the office, you can get away with a lot of stuff when you're in the office than when you're
True.
virtual.
True.
That's right. And Simon is saying, what report do you submit quarterly? There's no standard report that is required from you. Each environment might request, maybe write what your progress report, what's your coaching plan, submit a coaching plan, or give us an idea of what are the key metrics. They are not specific report to submit. Right. Now, Rosin, I get your point, right? The point of the scrum master taking control um of the event is not micromanaging. If you're not really assertive and make sure that you can have control and help your team to know when to talk, when to slow down, they're going to push that event for 1 hour. And so, especially when you have like really uh, um, what stakeholders that come into your meeting, or you have like really senior, what's it called, uh, tech lead and
Tech
all of that.
leads. Yeah.
Yes. I remember about a couple of years ago, I was facilitating an event, right? I had a new team that come on board. In that team, the PO was the product manager. And then the tech league also had to join that the daily standard. I mean, there was a data team. And most of those who were in that data team were like really senior developer. They could do almost everything. The first day I sat at the daily stand up, it was almost about 1 hour. Now, you would not imagine telling your manager, okay, you need to stop. We're out of time, right? You just want to go and go and go and go and go,
Mhm.
right? But then you need now to, now this is also about getting in a new environment and wanting to change stuff because we've read about daily stand-up should be 15 minutes. Now it's going. It took me quite a lot of observation to understand why that is happening. Now, the reason why that was happening was not because they want to stay there for 45 minutes. It was because most often they get to discover the work that the senior developers are doing during the daily stand up. Now they start probing into questioning on what they are working on and all of that. So I had to now observe because I need to figure out what's the root cause. Why they're having these long meetings. When I realized the problem was the requirement collection process wasn't organized. Any manager could send work directly to any developer. I'm working on this. I'm working on this. I
Mhm.
needed now to find time on one of the retrospective on how we could be able to create a process where there's a central hub where any requirement comes into, and then we could take that up as needed. But that needed me not to start from the Scrum team, but to start that negotiation from a management level, and then have that agreement, right? So because of that, at the level of management, they had now to organize a pre-spring planning meeting where all the managers that were on that line will get together, define what is important for their team, prioritize so that the team can get it before. So now, if I wanted to say, oh, it's a 15-minute meeting, keep it short, what happened? They can keep it short because we're not solving the problem, right? So it's always important. Most often, we're like, oh, it's 15 minutes. Why should you go 30 minutes? You might want to jump quick into trying to address issues that you would never get to fix them, even for a long time. So that's also very important.
And Doctor, add quick one. They may also take note of that as well. It's not just they come and check, how you get the meeting and something. It's also can also take a look. Think of it as an assessment of you as a Scrum Master.
Yeah,
How are you controlling the team? How are you running things? Do you have control over situation? So the flip side, look at it as an assessment. You may not be aware of it, but that's why I say sometimes it's more difficult when you do it virtually than when you're in person. Because you're in person, they can just flip and then they walk away. They don't. But when you're virtual, they be present and see how things are going, then whatever note or whatever they want to do, they can do it. Also have to be mindful of that.
that's right. That is very correct. And let's get into this question, then we can now go back to where we kind of ended and see how to put the discussion back. I think, Pascal, yes, one of the reasons why you, as a Scrum Master, you have to build your team to ensure that that's the point of transparency in a Scrum team, which means if you're not there because of an emergency, someone else can pick it up from there because everyone have access to the information. Now, you should not run your team in a way that if you're not there, nobody can pick it up, right? If you're even if and also remember, we always advocate go prioritize your backlog to spring deep or so. That if the PO is not there, it should not stop the team from working. So all of those measure on transparency help us to move ahead. All right, perfect. Now let's get into more deeper conversation. We have been talking on daily stand up. I think we have quite a good number of questions that came in on daily stand up to help us gain the clarity. And yes, Rosine, based on your comment, yeah, it's very important. The Scrum Master should not call decisions without considering the team. No, you said it, your working agreement with the team, you need to work together with the team. Now, when you work together and you have like a working agreement and you define what the team should do and what the team should not do, now that is where you, the Scrum Master, need now to facilitate and ensure that everyone is respecting what the team has put in place. All right, the let us move to the backlog refinement session, which is also a very interesting session. Now, when we talk about backlog refinement, and I know for many people who have done um, PSM, they will say, or maybe pure Scrum, they'll say, oh, backlog refinement is not an official event. Let's start from there. Coach Al, what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I think it may not have stated in the context of the Scrum Guide as an official event, though Safe did consider it. But you always want to have an opportunity to refine stuff that you're doing, right? Think of think of your travel, think of your traveling, or think of things that you do. You always want to prep before the actual event itself, right? Like Doc just mentioned, have your backlog 2, 3 sprint or for as many as you can, have it deep, right? What it does, it just gives you an opportunity to prepare, right? There may be time for, even if there comes time for change, the negotiation, move things around, you already have it. So the purpose of backlog refinement is you get what I would say though, let your PO be your best friend. When I say best friend like this, right? You go in, you check up, okay, what are we working on next? Do we have all the details? Story, acceptance criteria, whatever information in it. That's basically what it is, right? You just got to make sure those things are ready. Now, if you go do your sprint planning, so you don't have to waste, it's all about timing. It's about utilizing time well, that the the team can be able to be more effective. It's all about the more the how well you utilize your time, allow that effectiveness, it transcends to the team. So we do pretty much everything in our backlog refinement. We estimate, they assign the story to themselves. I'm just sitting there looking, they're going back and forth. Okay, team, hey, I asked a question. You have need any additional detail? Are we clear what the task is? What are we supposed to deliver? That's all I ask. Do we understand what the deliverable is? Yes, good to go. They know how to deliver it. That's not that's not my department, right? But when you utilize that really well, your team is going to be more effective. When we say high performing teams, this is the process by which you create a high performing team, by prepping really well. So you give them that room to be able to come in, do what they have to do, and move on.
Wow, great. Now, Catherine, I think I want you to pick up from where Coach Alfred said. Coach Alfred made two statements, which I think we need some clarity there, right? That's a little bad. Now, the first one, he said, you need to make your product owner your very good friend.
Yes.
But we understand that it's not going to work like that in so many cases, right? Or in some of the cases. So now I do understand that you have a very good relationship with your PO, but I wanted to pick it from the end. What happened when you have a PO that is not, number one, is not available,
Mhm.
or secondly, they're not willing to collaborate for some reason? How do you handle that situation?
Hmm. Wow, that's a tough question because I've never experienced that. Because first off, I feel like when we get into environment, what we think of the environment or say about the environment comes into manifestation. For
Yeah,
me, I've always manifested good product owners, good teams, and that's what I get to meet.
perfect.
So so I feel like you need, like, we are all humans. You need to have a conversation with this person, with the product owner, and just build that relationship as outside the team. Get on one-on-one calls as many as you can, because if you're not friends with your peer, like, your life will be miserable. So
Yeah, yeah,
just get on the same page with them. Just let them know that you're a team player. Like, aside, okay, we know we're in a team, but like, you're also a team player. Just you and the PO, because you need to make sure. Oh, do we have stories to refine? If you need follow up from business, oh, I send this email to the line of business. I know you sent this email to. Have you gotten any feedback? Just make them your best friend. Like, my PO recently went to India. He actually brought me a snack and some clothes. So just make them your friend. These people are human. Sometimes I feel like some of them are a little difficult because they've also made Scrum Masters are not very friendly or collaborative. So they just tend to be like a very strong mechanism not to let any other Scrum Master pass by. So just be friends with them, and your life will be so easy. I've not experienced that, and I don't wish anyone to have a difficult product owner, because your life will be so miserable. It'll make your life miserable. So
yeah.
just be friends with them.
So I
If you
think to add up to that, though, to add up to it, I think it's a notion. I always say, don't go be a scrum police. It's wrong,
Yeah.
right? Don't be a. But it's a notion as humans, right?
Yeah.
Change is something
It's
that
hard.
will resist. It's a natural
It's
thing.
hard. It's hard.
It's really hard, and sometimes you gotta get expect. It can be a. It can feel threatened.
Mm-hmm.
But what you do, like I said, it's just you
Yeah.
just be you. It's a slow. It's a process. It's not gonna go. Hey, well now some of us has different ability to connect with people is different. We all have
True.
that different. Now, if you don't have that connect with people really quick,
Mm-hmm.
it's a process. Understand it may not take a month, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. What you do, just be candid with your communication.
Yes.
Just be professional with your communication. The way you approach this individual, they will slowly start opening up.
True.
But if you want to go pound for pound for pound, they come back.
It
Yeah.
is.
You're already comfortable with the environment, know the ins and out, and that's why you become a problem to them.
Yeah.
So it's understand it's a process.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
Doug, to add,
exa-
sorry, Coach Al, like like most of us always say, "Oh, I'll coach the product owner." Oh my God, like that word is so offensive. Like they take they go through their own training, so I
Yeah.
feel like it's so unfair for a scrum master to say, "Oh, coach the product owner." No, you have conversations with the product owner because you are there to achieve the same goal. Like
yeah,
even though the product owner owns the backlog, at the same time I feel like you need to support the product owner with the backlog. So don't say, "Oh, I'll coach the product owner." So if let's say the product owner is unavailable, doc, what I always do, I will reach out to him. "Oh, is it that you need to know why he's unavailable. Don't just assume that, oh, he doesn't want to make time for the team. Meet this person, have this conversation, see why he's not available, and see how you can support him. You could Scrum Masters can reach out to the line of business to get stories. Yeah, you get the story, put in the backlog. The team knows what needs to be done. The team is going to support you to do refinement. So get to know your PO, know why they're not available, and just create a good relationship with them. And everything else will be so easy. Your life will be so easy. And please avoid using the word coach and avoid trying to correct the product owner in front of the team. You can do
yeah.
that behind the scene. Don't comment. Oh, I know. Yeah, I don't like. Sometimes they make little errors. I always go up opinion real quick. Hello, my friend. You did this. You had to do this interview. Oh, sorry, my friend. Thank you for letting me know. Behind the scene, even team members, there's some things that you cannot do in front of the team. There are other things that you need to call out immediately, but you need to know, like, draw how you draw the line. So that's my take on it. Though. Thank you.
Yeah, I do agree. And the reason I do agree, I've also kind of mentored in situation where we have like really that tight relationship between the Scrum Master and the PO. Most often, this is scenarios where I've seen it, right? And I don't often coach people to use this scenario in the in their interview because trust me, most of the interviews, the product owner will be the one interviewing you.
Mhm.
Because in most of the companies, those who they take as product owners have been for quite a while and master the product. So they promote them. So by nature, most often they might not be agile. You have like really few scenario where they can be agile. Now, I had a scenario where uh, PO was really, really resistant. Not really resistant, but he was really offensive, right? Try to kick against like, oh, we have to do this and all of that. And the Scrum Master was really offended by the approach of the PO and thought the PO doesn't want me in this environment. And so I'm like, no, this number one reason why people are offensive. They are trying to defend their ignorance. They don't want you to come at them for something they don't know. So it's a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
So I had to tell them, hey, they're not defensive. It's because the master that you know what you're doing and you might put them on the spot. So for them to stay protected, they need to prove that attitude. And what we needed to do is to change the language of communication. Like, hey, will you mind? And with time, the PO open up. It's like, you know what? You really mastered this, and I really need some support from you. But this was about 3 to 4 months of that, right? But then the Scrum Master, that's why we say Scrum Master is a servant leader. This is not a fancy statement, guys.
It's
It's
not at all.
because you're going to see situation, you're going to come across, but you still choose to maintain that servant leader approach and
Yeah.
pull the way. I used to tell people the cheapest thing to do is to do a certification and learn how. The most difficult stuff is about how you deal with personality and still
Yes,
stay
oh my
strong.
God. Hmm.
Now, on the question of Pascal, yes, I used to have a scenario like that where the PO was the manager. Now, it doesn't matter if they are managers. If it's not right, it's not right. If it's a way, there is a way that need to go to. But what you need to understand is that you don't challenge them; they're always right. Now, at this case, what you do is you need to leverage very clear communication. Coach Catherine mentioned something. If your Scrum Master or your PO, whosoever, is resistant to one-on-one conversation and all of that, leverage effective communication method. All right, Mr. PO, we need to get this by tomorrow. This. Is there a way you can get this and this and this? And they'll get a response. You send it by email. It's when you notice that, don't go with verbal communication. Try as much as possible to make sure that all communications go by emails, especially when you deal with people who are very resistant, and it's kind of difficult to approach them like have a one-on-one conversation. When they're your boss, they can always decline your meetings and there's nothing you can do. So what you need to do is to switch to effective communication via email. The team need this by this, and if they don't have this, it's going to impact this result. Is there a way you can provide this to us by midday? Now, those lines of communication, they don't have a choice than to respond to that. I'll give a clear example. There's a meeting I've scheduled with stakeholders to get a conversation about alignment cutting across several product lines for a long time. Now, there's one of the main stakeholder that have he always put tentative. So you don't know if he's coming or not. And when
Always,
come, he
always.
will show up. So I had to now send him a personal conversation. At the first time, it's just communicating just for me. All right, I'm this person, this is my role, and this meeting has been going on. And because you're a key stakeholder, we cannot move on without you. Is there a specific time you think this is going to work for you so that we can schedule the meeting around you? Because if we don't have this, this is stopping this. So as I said, all of those clarification, he had no choice than to respond. Now, one of the reasons he has not been attending that meeting was because when they started the thread of the email, another manager from another product line said, "Oh no, I don't think this conversation need to bring in this manager and this manager." So they got offended by that point. So when he responded, he said, "But in the email, this person said we're not needed there. So I don't see a reason why I need to be there." Now I had to now bring in clarity. So you see, some of the reasons they're not attending is you just think that they're ignoring. That clear communication is very important to engage. First of all, when what to what or appointments are not working, we always need to switch to that. Now, kind of giving a conclusion on our backlog refinement, so we can take multiples of this question on the chat. With backlog refinement, a lot of people always start, especially people who are interviewing. Oh, backlog refinement is not an official event, but
Mm-mm.
in when we're interviewing you, we're not looking for the theory, we're looking for what is practice. In practice, backlog refinement is an event. Whether you practice Scrum, Safe, backlog refinement is so much that important that when we go to sprint planning, we don't even spend up to 15, 20 minutes because a backlog refinement does the job. Backlog refinement is that opportunity where you can invite expert and other people to come support you, make sure that you get it right there. And it's not just an event per se. There are some SMEs that you need to walk around their schedule to bring them in just to make sure you gain clarity on that. So it's very important. If you can do that right there, it will solve many of the problems because that's where you get to get clarification on dependency, clarification on requirement, clarification on who can work on this, clarification, do we need an external resource to handle this and all of this. If not, you get to your spring planning and then you get on the spot because you can do that. So it's very important. Now, I think the next question a lot of people always face is, now what's the difference now between backlog refinement and sprint planning? What can we do in backlog refinement and what can we not do in planning?
Mm.
There is definitely no clear cut. Now, the reason why uh, the Scrum guy will tell you sprint planning is 2 or 4 hours is because they don't consider that we're doing refinement. So all of that long hour is to start having conversation and clarifying on requirement. But then when backlog refinement come into place, the sprint planning will not be up to 1 hour because
Yeah.
all of that problem has taken charge. Those are some of the difference between theory and practice
Yeah.
you need. But then if you definitely want to get more into this, you should come for some more practical aspect of it. Let's kind of take a couple of other questions that came up right here. And Catherine, I would like you to take this question. It's a bit out of scope, but very important question. How do you measure your team capacity to ensure they can deliver the spring goal if one notices that they are not delivering spring goal often? So I guess the point is trying to match capacity
To
to your work.
to your
What
workload.
you take into consideration?
So first off, this is the first thing you need to do as a Scrum Master. Sometimes people do it prior to planning, and then on the day of the planning, you just go over it. But with this question, I want to ask the person a follow-up question, like what makes you think is the capacity that makes them not to deliver their sprint goal?
Good question.
So it might be many reasons. So I don't, if it's like if it's something that's you said often, so it cannot just be the capacity.
Mhm.
Do they
That's
understand what they need to work on? Are they? You need to know. Does business provide all the maybe um
What
um
requirements on
the
time?
requirements on time? Yes. So it
Do
might be
the
many
team
reasons.
estimate?
You didn't have to estimate. Yes. So it might be many reasons. So I'm not sure capacity alone will rarely affect because instead capacity guide us to know how much work to pull into the sprint. So
Mhm.
it's not I'm not very convinced capacity might be the reason why they don't achieve their sprint goal.
I think.
Maybe
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
maybe they don't have maybe a good knowledge. You need to ask, oh, do you have a good do you know like the how part? If they don't know, you start creating that brainstorming sessions. You need to know, or do they need more training? It might be a lot of reasons, but to me, capacity it's the list of the reasons why a team is not able to achieve their sprint goals, especially when it's repeatedly. So mm, maybe
Yeah.
to if
I,
the person is if you're still online, please can you clarify us on this question? Because capacity is the last thing. Instead, capacity is the main guide on how much we put into the sprint.
I think it comes down to management. How do you manage your team? That ties into your capacity. How do you manage it? When you establish your capacity, do you validate that with your team to ensure that everybody either A available at 100% or not?
Hmm.
Who is gonna go there? So I learned this from consulting prior to transition.
Yeah. And
We
coach,
have
sorry.
go ahead.
If I may add me, oh, so the only reason I think capacity might affect their workload is maybe when people have time off, they don't factor that into how much to pull into the sprint. So yeah, that might be a reason. I'm sorry, that might be a reason. So maybe they do capacity and people, let's say three developers are out for 2 days each, and they don't take that into consideration while moving stories into the sprint. So yeah, that might be a reason. So they want to make sure they match their capacity matches what they're pulling into the sprint.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to talk about, brought in it because it can it's all your management, right? You have to stay on top of it. We create a calendar, just create a calendar. Eh, Created it first at full capacity for everyone, color coded, green there, whichever color you give it. If you're gonna be out, you go in the calendar, you put the day you're gonna be out. It solves the problem. So we
Yeah.
go and look at the calendar. Hey, he's gonna be out this whole week. So now we plan ahead. So it's all about your. Remember, Doc said was servant leader. Your
Yes.
ability to lead is also comes with your management skills.
Exactly.
How do you manage? Be it capacity, be it story estimation, whatever the case may be that may not the team is not able to deliver. It encompasses on you, your management skill set. How do you manage the team? how do you manage the activities and event around or within the team. It is critical for you to have that skill set. That's what follow up the leadership as well.
Well, yeah, I do agree. Let's have this question as kind of a closing question. I was thinking we're gonna get into this, dive a bit more into
Yeah.
review, but next week we're still gonna continue. I think I used to tell people if you master Scrum event and all what happened around it, there's a whole lot of conversation around that. You are gonna be a very good Scrum master, right? Now, someone asked the question, what is WestJet? And WSJF. Was WestJet, and
Oh.
it is the only method to prioritizing backlog. But I had a recruiter say, short with
Shortest weighted job.
okay, that's funny though. So WestJet or weighted shortest job first is not used in team backlog
Mm-mm.
prioritization.
Mhm.
Is used in future prioritization, right? So that's the first thing we need to understand. Uh, Most often, as a Scrum Master, you will not have to deal with WestJet, except I've seen companies where you will have what we call level one, level two. Level two Scrum Master actually support future refinement that you can come across with WestJet, right? Uh, when we're talking about backlog refinement, we're looking at Moscow and also trying to use criteria like invest to refine story and looking at deep to make sure they kind of stuff. But when it comes to WestJet, WestJet is using in refining futures. Now with futures, what I'm talking about right here, it I'll give you a very high level overview, right? This is not for Scrum Master, but I'm going to give you a very high level overview. When an epic, we want to work on an epic, Scrum does budgeting at the level of epic. A certain amount of money is put into that epic. And as the work is going, that money is being calculated. So when epic is breaking down into a future, it's like you've been able to split that bucket of money into different components. So when you split them into different components, let's just simply say that based on these different features, which one will give us more money if we focus on first? So that means the weighted shortest job first, the one that if we don't work on it very fast, we're losing money. So we look at what? We look at the cost of delay all over the job size, which is the formula for WasteJet. Means the longer we keep on delaying on working on this future, the more the company is losing. So the company use that to prioritize, and that's why sometimes we talk about changing requirements in the backlog. It's a very big concept that affect the way the backlog is organized, but the team doesn't have to deal with it. And that is why the product owner have to stay in constant communication with the customer in such a way that if a priority change, they'll also be able to adopt or adapt at the team level. So I think that is the high level we need to understand about with the if we start going into details to start looking at what are the different components of the cost of delay, we're going to throw a lot of people off here. So I would
Yes.
not want us to push it conversation further
Sure.
than these. So now we almost at the top of it's 1 hour. It seems like we've just been here for 10 minutes.
I know.
We're gonna give a 5 minute extra bonus. But then on a 5 minutes extra bonus, what I want us to do, um, we want to give out some takeaway and coaching advice, most especially to people who are interviewing or people who want to step up. Now, a very big announcement for most of us who are watching us also for our working Scrum Master. We have an agile coach component. If you want to grow from a Scrum Master to becoming an agile coach, we have launched a program that will help you kind of navigate in less than no time. Right. All of this conversation we're having them from a coaching perspective. So you can see beyond what a Scrum Master is doing. And with the way the market is going out very fast, you need to start leveling up, right? So why Coach Alfred and Coach Catherine, you're giving us our last coaching advice. What I'm gonna do, we give people the opportunity to request for 30-minute free coaching. But then I always advise people. Sometimes when we say free coaching, many people don't take advantage. Number one, you only do coaching when you need it. Number two, if you have just questions to come and ask, you don't need coaching, right? Coaching is where you feel like you need something is missing and you want to seek an advice of an expert. And when you come to an advice, you're not coming to tell them, oh, I know this, I have this question, I have this question. No, it's more of, okay, this is where I am right now. And this is what I think, how do I move from year to year? And we'll be able to give you some really good advice. So, Coach Catherine, while you're taking that, I'm going to display a number. Send a text, please don't call. If you're interested, send a text. You're interested in getting a 30-minute free session. It's as much as it's available. It's not a guarantee that you'll get it, but try as much as possible to see how we can accommodate you. Yes, Coach Catherine, please give a piece of advice for our working Scrum Master and our to be Scrum Master.
All right, thank you, Doug. So first, let me start with our working Scrum Masters. So as Scrum Masters, we need to always remember we are servant leaders, and sometimes if you need to step down, just tone some things down, just so your team is doing okay. It's for your own good, because sometimes there are team members that have like little egos. Just text them like, oh, I want to do this for the team. What's your take on this? That doesn't do you any harm. So sometimes just try to go low a little just to make some people happy, because that's how some team members are. And again, as team coaches, there's a very thin line between coaching and mentoring. So if you're as Scrum Masters, we are coaches, right? So learn to separate coaching from mentoring. With coaching, you're asking powerful questions. You're not giving the team the answer. You're asking powerful questions. And as a coach, the best questions to ask are not really the why questions. The best questions to ask are the how and what questions, because it gets people to think on a wider perspective rather than why. Why is just it gives like a little range for people to think. So best practice, how and what questions they make people to think broader. And then for aspiring Scrum Masters, you can do this. You got this. Reach out if you need any help or support. And as of now, I feel like interviewers want to see who you are, because at the end of the day, yes, you know Scrum, you know Agile. What else can you bring to the table when you get to your team? That's what they want to see during an interview. They don't want, oh, Scrum, they're tired of that. They want to see who you are. That's why you go for a panel interview. Some people are so quiet that just maybe their own role is to watch your body language, watch the way you communicate. They want to see the energy in your answer, the energy in your voice. That's what they want to see. They want to see somebody that will come to a meeting and light up the room. I always say this, as Scrum Masters, we are MCs. If you don't have the MC energy, you cannot be a good Scrum Master. So reach out if you need help. And again, study, do your own part, because at the end of the day, if you join a community or a community where you need to get the hands-on experience, you need the theory to balance up the hands-on experience. If you don't know the theory, it's going to be so difficult for you. My final words, Doc. If you need a six-figure job, you need to do the six-figure work. So
I
thank
love
you.
that saying the last job. If you need
Yeah,
I
you
like
need to do
that.
the,
And Coach Catherine
and
just
and
emphasized,
and to think that just came from nowhere last time. I thought about it. I'm like, okay, God put that in my mind. So, but don't forget
yeah,
to pray, do your part, because
yeah,
six-figure job comes with six-figure work.
it's figure what. I really love that.
And
And
one last thing, when you get a job, you need to continue the work, because to maintain the six-figure, you need to continue doing the six-figure work. Thank you.
very important, which is why I advise many people. Most often, we're not saying come to our community, but you need to belong somewhere where you can grow. And Coach Catherine said something very powerful, shifting from why to ask how and what. It's very very important. The way you ask a question, sometimes the why questions are for children.
Yes.
Why can't we do this? So we need to grow up from
Yeah.
why to start asking. I love that. Coach Alfred, please take it up.
Yeah, I think as you were saying, pretty much cover most. But for like we said, we cover that your leadership, it's critical leadership management skill set. If you want to be effective in anything, you have to. It's not just being a leader, right? But your ability to manage, your ability to communicate clearly and articulate. Communication breaks the barrier of everything. I don't care how stubborn that person is. It's not what you communicate, it's how you communicate. That's what break that barrier. And like we said, coaching and everything, it's how you approach the situation. It's not about asking the why, right? How can I, what is, put yourself in their position and act and try to bring them out so they can think for themselves and be able to, right? I said leadership management skills and your ability to communicate as a working scrum master. Again, I always say just be yourself.
Mm,
There's nothing, we are human beings. Just be yourself. Don't try to be something you are not, because the moment you change who you are, you're destroying everything you have created. Yeah, we can change. We change to be better.
yeah.
But don't change who you are as a person because of somebody else is driving you crazy. No, that's what I'll say. For aspiring Scrum Masters, focus on understanding the concept. Don't try to memorize it. Don't try to do, just understand the key concept. You do it every day, but try to understand this. The environment may be different. That's the only difference, right? But if you really look at it, it's not much as for somebody working in a nursing field. We pretty much do the same thing. You're dealing with people. So when you focus on your learning, focus on understanding the concept. It is very important when you understand the concept, everything just flows easily. Don't go try to read a whole book and try to put it in your head. It's not gonna work. It's
Wow.
not, that's
Okay.
it. No, it's not gonna work. So that's all for me.
Thank you very much, Coach Alfred, for that powerful piece of advice. Guys, this stuff is not difficult. Trust me, they're very simple to the point. And one of the aspect a lot of our uh, people now, one thing a lot of people miss. This is my own advice. They miss out the fact that Scrum is a leadership position.
Yeah.
So they try to get the Scrum job without building leadership. One of the things we really take into consideration why coaching our team members is leadership and mentoring. And we had someone who had a job about 2 weeks ago. Now, what she told me was when we spoke about personal development and believing in God, she had to take a pause and start learning public speaking. And while she was learning public speaking, the next interview she had a job. Now, her problem wasn't that she doesn't know the material, she actually needed to build some leadership skills. And for many of us, I think we're too comfortable and we're not doing the six-figure job. And we're not doing the six-figure work and we want the six-figure job, which is a very, very big issue. So I definitely want to advise a lot of people. I wrote a book. I think I kind of just fallen back in love with this book again. Get off your comfort zone. For many people who are too comfortable, and this is gonna go for almost everyone. You've been trying this for more than 6 months, more than a year. You're too comfortable. That's why you keep trying. Why you keep doing the same thing? You can get this book on Amazon. Get a copy for yourself, and you're gonna send me a thank you letter. Get off your comfort zone. and their subtitle is unlocking the path to exceptional success in everyday life. How do you deal with situation? How do you actually plan yourself to get what you want? What are the principles of success? How do you apply them in your day-to-day life? So you want to make sure that you grab a copy of that book. Don't only think about scrum. You need part of scrum. You need it also personal development. It's very important. I just share the link there. And for those who, if you're new to Scrum and you want to learn more on how to switch on that career, send a text to that number on the screen. We'll try to see how we can help you. But it's a whole lot. We're reserving next week also to pick up with a conversation. Want to talk more on spring on Scrum events and how you can become a much better. We're playing the balance because we want those who are actually in the field to benefit and all of that. And hello to Coach Rosalind for being a really great contributor
Yeah,
in the
always.
comment section, providing so much value. Thank you. And I want to thank you to all our coaches that were also aligning and Sammy and Pascal and the rest really making some really great conversation there in the comment section. But then let's keep learning. It's always a learning process. And I always say that any moment you stop learning, you stop growing. You don't want to make sure that you stop learning. The reason that why we kind of create this event is to get more engagement from us to keep doing what we're doing best. Until next week, I want to say thank you and thank you to all my amazing coaches, Coach Catherine and Coach Alfred, for being true servant leaders and just coming out and pouring out this knowledge to the team. All right, everybody, thank you. The time we wish we could extend the
I
time.
know.
We need to go.
Doc, it's always an honor to share
Yeah.
everyone and to learn too. Thank you.
All right. Thank
All
you.
right, take care.
Everybody, make sure you share someone listening to the great conversation. Drop a comment, drop a like.